about the next way to graphically represent a frequency distribution called a frequency polygon. Frequency polygons are going to be very similar to histograms, but there will be some slight differences. Frequency polygons, instead of using bars like histograms, use lines that connect the points for frequencies at the midpoints. So instead of drawing a bar like we did in a histogram, instead we're going to draw a point at the midpoint and then essentially connect the dots. So now that we have the basic ideas, let's talk about how to do one, and then we'll actually give an example. Our first step is going to be the same as histograms, and we're going to draw and label our axes. However, what we've labeled them this time is going to be slightly different. This time we're going to label the midpoints on the x-axis rather than the class boundaries. We'll use the midpoints instead. We'll still label the frequency on the y-axis, and just like with histograms, we can also label relative frequency if we'd prefer to use that. We'll then plot frequencies as points at these midpoints and then connect the dots. And there's one key thing about this that's really important when we're connecting these dots. We need to start and end on the x-axis. So both our starting point and our ending point will be on the x-axis, and then we'll just connect the dots from there. So now that we have some of the basics, let's do an example. Here's our frequency distribution that we've been dealing with the age of presidents at the time of their inauguration. This time, instead of using the boundaries though, we'll use our midpoint column. And this will go on our x-axis. So when we draw our graph, we have our x and y axis, and our first midpoint in that table was 43. We also had 48, 53, 58, 63, and then our last one was 68. And just like last time, our frequency should go up to 16. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. And now we just need to start plotting our frequencies. Looking at the table, we can see that our first two frequencies are 2 and 8. So we'll start with those. On our graph at 43, we'll graph the point 2, and at 48, we'll go up to 8. We'll now go back to our table and look at our next two frequencies. We've now looked at 2 and 8. Our next two will be 16 and then 9. Back at our graph, we can go up 16 and up 9. Let's go back to the table. We've now done 16 and 9. Our final two will be 7 and 3. So on our graph, we'll go up to 7 and 3. And then start connecting the dots. And like I said, we do need to start and end on the x-axis. And then we just connect our dots using straight lines. And now we have our frequency polygon.